What's good news to the tax collector in Luke 18? And I'm going to wait a moment. Some brave soul is going to put the first answer in the chat. God has mercy on sinners. He's welcomed by Jesus. He's humbling himself. He'll be exalted. I mean, he's probably ostracized from his own people. We already know, like, the typical practices of tax collectors are to collect extra from their own people. They're working for the oppressive Roman Empire. And then he's beating his breast, and it doesn't seem like a show. He feels his dirtiness, his brokenness, his need, and he's being forgiven, and he's being lifted up, and he's being seen and recognized and given a second chance by Jesus, by God. That is really good news. He's humble, and he's going to be exalted and lifted up. Wonderful. But you all told me a minute ago, at least like 5 of you did, yes, in the chat. What's the good news for the Pharisee? Because we said that the gospel is for everyone, which means Jesus, somehow in this passage, is sharing good news for the Pharisee. What's the good news for the Pharisee? I'd love to see in the chat. What do you think? Ooh, God's still with him. You can free yourself by being humble. I love that. That's good, Don. Anyone else? Surrender from power and pleasure. Well, Steve, the teacher's putting his answer in. He doesn't have to keep justifying himself. Oh my gosh, this is good. Y'all are good. Because and I want you just to track with me. I think you can feel that it's much easier to identify the good news for the tax collector than it is for the Pharisee. And as you're going deep, what I hear you saying is, it's not really going to feel like good news, Pharisee, but I promise that it is, right? That it's like you have this conflated sense of self-importance, a sense of identity, that you need to keep this illusion, sense of superiority. He's looking down. I mean, is he really even praying to God? It says he's praying to himself. And that kind of ego, I think it's like a 24/7 maintenance required to make sure I'm like keeping my sense of how I'm better than everyone else. And there's a freedom and letting go from doing that. He doesn't have to play God. He doesn't have to justify himself. He can let go of these false things that are building him up. Another person, as I had this conversation, said, the good news is he can gain back his brother. Because there's a fellow Jewish human being, but they're not even in the same species, right? He's looking down. And I ask this question because it's my opinion that theologically, I had a friend that wrote an article that was, I think it was maybe in Sojourners or on Medium, that's like, as white people, we tend to read ourselves as always the good guys in the scripture. We're always Jesus and the disciples. We're never the Pharisees. We're always Israel. We're never Egypt. We're always the Jews. We're never the Romans. And I think there's something that we need to wrestle with, which is to say, if we have a hard time articulating how Jesus is good news to that Pharisee, I think we have some work to do as white people, because just in terms of social power, cultural affirmation, I think as white people in the United States, we look more like the Pharisee than we do like the tax collector.
We're going to take the next 15, 20 minutes just to entertain a number of questions. As you listen to us unpack the inferiority and superiority issues, as you listen to us unpack how kind of white people really need to identify more as the Pharisees in the Luke 18 story and see ourselves as needing to surrender more than kind of demand rights. And as you listen to the display and the walk through American history, you know, what questions, what things kind of come up to your mind that you're wrestling with? What emotions even would be there?